Welcome to another edition of Your Impact Attack. That's right, it's Your Impact Attack, where we're talking about TNA Wrestling. That's right, total nonstop action, which is a great descriptor for this show here. We're not going to stop giving you the action all night long. Who are we? I'm Jamie Williams, also known as the Vet. I'm tagging through the camera my partner, Brandon. Brandon, what is going on?
Whoop, whoop. Not much, man. Just another week in wrestling. Dominoes continue to fall in the Vince McMahon saga. It's, man. But one thing I can at least say is a positive. 3 weeks in of TNA rebrand and the Impact, I really feel that this show has gotten much better. I'm not talking about like with the clip shows we've been subjected to the last couple of months since Bound for Glory. I'm talking like the shows from before Bound for Glory. Like these TNA shows feel like, to me, they feel like a much better show.
Well, I'm sure we will discuss that in great detail here as we run down this February 1st episode. But we've introduced the V and the B. I think we should say hello to the C. They make up the heart and soul of the Impact Attack, or the Moose Moose, as it were. So let's see who's in the house.
Let's see. We got Javi Uchida, Buckshot Kid, Lab Rat, Media M5, Lisbeth, and Darkside Caster. How y'all doing? Hope you're having a great night. Whoop, whoop.
Well, a veritable murderer's row. And I'm not just talking about Liz's love of true crime. Yes, this is a good core group of people here to get us started throughout the night. And I guess, Sonic the Hedgehog just sneaks in under the last second with a double thumbs up. That's right,
What
a
up,
double
Sonic?
thumbs up for Sonic the Hedgehog for sure. So yeah, well you touched on it, and I know that's a poor choice of words, but we're going with it. Uh, Vince McMahon, you know, I guess federal investigation reopened, ongoing, whatever you want to say.
Or
Um,
it's now being officially reported that, or it's now out in the open. There's a federal investigation into a federal criminal investigation. That's the important part. Into the sex trafficking and sexual assault allegations against Vince McMahon. So it's gotten pretty serious.
yes. Yes, no doubt it was serious, but now it's a little more officially serious.
Yeah,
I think,
if it was at orange, it's about red now.
yeah, yeah, I would. I mean, this was like kind of old news in a way. It's just that without rehashing everything over and over again that everybody's probably heard. Um, and as usual, a lot of uninformed takes, a lot of ignorant takes, a lot of ridiculous opinions. And I'm not just talking about casual people on social media or anything like that. I'm talking about people that do this for a living that can't be bothered to read up, and know what they're talking about, whenever they comment on it, right? But I did say when this stuff was a little fresher, like the other week or two ago, however long it's been now. I said there's criminal shit in the lawsuit. There's criminal stuff in it. It's a civil lawsuit, but there's criminal stuff in it. So of course it's going to be investigated if it wasn't already investigated. Now they said there was an investigation in 2022, but who knows who was doing that investigation or what? There was supposed to be an in-house investigation, whatever that means, right? So I don't
And
know.
remember, too, it wasn't that long ago that it came out that he was raided by the feds.
Yes, so
And who knows what that was for.
right. So basically, this is all just like it's all just like the same kind of procedure that you'd expect from these type of investigations, but because it's wrestling, you know, a lot of these fans are kind of new to this. They don't realize how things work. They don't, you know, some of them hardly read. So understandably, it's all that anybody wants to talk about in terms of the wrestling media or whatever, because they've never, this is sort of unprecedented. Nobody this, well, there's never been anybody as big as Vince McMahon. And there's certainly, you know, not since the, you know, the 1994 steroid trials was there this big of a federal light shined on anything that he was doing. And I would say distributing steroids is the least of the things they should have been looking to back in 1994. But here we are.
Right. So. Like, I mean, Russo kind of said it best when he brought up, like, you know, all the smoke. And it's like, dude, we have smoke going all the way back to the 80s.
Right.
Like, there's how many, the question, it shouldn't be how much smoke, it's how many fires are going on.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, kind of like Sonic is saying, you know, people don't want to say anything because either they are going to be implicated by speaking up, either they will implicate somebody else that could potentially cost them a job later on down the line, or they themselves have signed an NDA and are not legally allowed to speak up. You know, that's one of the reasons why when people say, like, you know, wait till more people come forward and speak up. It's like, I'm sure a lot of them would. But well, if this NDA gets ruled as unenforceable and unlawful and all these other things, then that could potentially negate all the previous NDAs that were signed, because I'm sure they have similar language, if not, you know, boilerplate language in all of them.
Right. And that's option is not actually on the table from what we've heard, because it turns out Vince had all these NDAs drawn up and signed without the WWE knowing. It may have just been him and Jerry McDevitt.
Mm-hmm. Which is also funny that Jerry McDevitt announced his retirement before a lot of this stuff happened.
Yeah, and it's funny too because he wanted to like retire with a winning record, like a perfect record, and then this is the one thing he's like, oh shit, this is the probably one I'm going to lose. Peace.
Yep. Yeah, certainly a smart man. But yeah, so there's that. I mean, everybody kind of can get this sort of, you know, this sort of chatter anywhere they like. You don't have to get it here, but it's worth mentioning. And there's a lot more that you're going to see. Another thing that people are definitely talking about, if it's not this, is some guy named Dwayne Johnson shows up and decides he's just going to main event WrestleMania. I don't know. Have you heard of this guy?
Dwayne
is it energy drink or something like that? I don't know if he's got like, I forget what it's called. Sambazon something. I don't know.
Isn't he that dude who had that like what movie was that? Black Adam that did really bad?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, him.
That dude?
Yeah, I think so. So this is an interesting situation. Let's just tie this directly to what we were just talking about, because one of the funny theories that I've seen is that that in order to distract everybody from what's going on with the McMahon investigation and all this other stuff, we've decided to put The Rock in the main event of WrestleMania. Is anybody falling for that? Is that not, I'm sorry, is it just me, or is that the most absurd thing anybody? How would that distract anybody from anything? If anything, that's going to put more eyeballs onto it. If The Rock is supposed to bring in casual fans who don't care about WWE anymore, They probably don't really care about what's going on with Vince McMahon or have not even heard about it potentially. So now you're going to bring your eyeballs over to the WWE and dip your toes back in those waters. And then you're going to see all this other stuff related to it. And you're not distracting it. You're shining a spotlight on it. Hey, The Rock is back. Oh, let me see what's going on. Vince McMahon under federal investigation. This is not going to, nobody could seriously think that that's like a viable game plan, right? Or is everybody that works in corporate like America, are they just that dumb? Do they really believe that?
I think if they shine a bright enough spotlight on their product, it will drown out that big cloud darkening overhead.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's I definitely would not be, if this stuff is going on, the best thing to do is business as usual. Stay small, as Ben would say, right? Like the bigger you try to go, the more people are going to pay attention. If that's in fact the reason that you're trying, if you're trying to not let people think about this stuff, as far as I'm concerned, the man resigned. So that's as much of a step as you can take to have people not distracted by the Vince McMahon things. So they've done everything they can do. I don't think The Rock is going to save WrestleMania or distract anybody from, federal investigations or civil lawsuits or just circulation of disturbing text messages. I don't think any of that's going to work. But as for the business aspect of it, people have been sort of like divided on the opinion that WrestleMania is just bringing in a parade of, guest stars who will say yes to doing it. And then it becomes a conversation about, should the spotlight be taken away from the people that have been working there the whole time, working hard to keep the machine running? Should we bring in these Goldbergs? Should we bring in these Brock Lesnar's? Should we bring in all these, old wrestlers, celebrities, part-timers, and everything like that? Or not should we, but how much should we? And how much of the allocated resources should we devote to these people every year at WrestleMania time? That's always kind of been a conversation. I'm sure it's a conversation among the active wrestlers there, but it's a conversation among fans and, the pundits as well. Some people think, yeah, it's a business. Bring in the most recognizable people. Other people say, use those people to supplement, the backbone, of your company. What do you think, Brandon? I mean, what's the line?
I honestly don't have a problem bringing in old wrestlers, legends, celebrities, having them get involved if they're used the right way to help enhance and build storylines and characters. One of the best examples I can think of was Mike Tyson at WrestleMania 14.
Right.
Like that's how they incorporated him into the storyline, and it actually helped further DX's story with how everything went down. That was what led to Triple H taking over and bringing in X-Pac and the Outlaws. And then you had the whole thing where it was Austin and Tyson were working together the entire time, and made Austin look even more intelligent and more of a mastermind.
So you're saying it worked out?
It worked out.
Okay, so now imagine a scenario in which Austin has gotten the right to challenge for the WWF Championship at WrestleMania and fulfill his career-long dream of being the WWF Champion. And then Mike Tyson comes in and is like, sorry, Steve, you could challenge for the title, just not at WrestleMania. I'm challenging Shawn Michaels for the WWF Championship at WrestleMania. How do you think that would have played out? I mean, Mike Tyson's a bigger star than Steve Austin was in '98. So, hey, business is business, right? Let's just have boxer versus wrestler too. Forget Inoki and Ali. Let's do Tyson and Michaels, right? Like that's basically what we're getting here. at this WrestleMania coming up is that it's that sort of scenario, because let's face it, we know The Rock is a wrestling legend, right? But there's an entire generation of kids who were born and became adults, and The Rock has only ever been an actor to them. So this is equivalent of like a washed up actor, coming in and deciding he wants to be the champion. Kind of like if a washed up boxer wanted to be the WWF champion in '98. So how do you think that would have affected business if they had done that? What would that have done for Austin in the eyes of the fans to just Austin, remember Austin, the guy that beats up his boss and drinks beer and all this other stuff. If he willingly stepped aside and said, he gave Mike Tyson a hug and said, "Go get him, Mike Tyson." Like, what would that have done for Austin? Do you think we would have had the financial success following that if he had done that? If they had cut his balls off like that?
I honestly can't even imagine a scenario where Austin would agree to that.
Exactly. He wouldn't.
In fact, he'd probably be dog cussing McMahon and Russo up and down over that idea.
Pretty much. But not Cody. Cody's a good boy.
However, in this situation, there's something that Dave Meltzer had brought up that might have some credence to it, because somebody brought up to him how there are several talent that are tweeting out like in support of Cody, saying this is bullshit, and he's saying like there's no way that talent would be doing that without directive from the office. So he thinks it's part of a storyline to help build Cody and make him an even more sympathetic babyface. And looking at and from what I'm hearing about the reaction that Cody had on Raw tonight, with the crowd like solidly even more behind him than usual, there might be. I'm not saying I completely agree with it, but I think there might be a little something to that.
I mean, that would make sense if they were that smart. I seriously doubt that they are.
Somebody pointed out saying they're trying to recreate what happened with Bryan Danielson like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I don't believe that. What I believe is that The Rock really thought that him coming out on Friday night would have been the coolest thing in the world and that everybody would love it. I think that is what The Rock genuinely thought. And I don't think anybody else would have wanted to do that. And if they were actually doing this just for Cody's benefit, then Cody would not have said the words, "I'm coming for you, just not at WrestleMania." Those were very specific words that he said, which you didn't have to say if that is the plan all along. If it's the plan all along, now you just make him look stupid by saying that, because if they do end up walking this back and he does go, then it'll be like, well, why did you say that and give The Rock the ring on that SmackDown? You're making Cody look dumb either way. As far as the Rock facing Cena at 2 WrestleManias comment, I'm specifically referring to the fact that there were kids that may not have been watching wrestling at all, or may not still be watching wrestling, right? But they saw movies with this guy in them. That's what I mean. Obviously, the wrestling fans that were watching the whole time, or kids that were into wrestling, would have seen him wrestle John Cena, sure. But I'm saying, just to prove a point, there are a group of people out there who were not wrestling fans, but know Dwayne Johnson and probably like his movies, is what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, I just really think The Rock is, I mean, this is a pattern of behavior of his. I mean, that's exactly what he does. He shows up in things that he's not a part of to start with, and then, with varying results, gets involved. It happened with, what's it called?
The last time him and Roman were in the ring in Philly.
Well, yeah, that was great, right? That worked out. Several movie franchises. He took 2 movie franchises from Brendan Fraser. He did the G.I. Joe. That's only been rebooted once since he got involved. So like, There's a bunch of he got a spin-off out of Fast and Furious, so that's nice. That's pretty good. And Roman Reigns was in it. That's nice too. Is that how they're going to try to sell us this match? Did something happen on the set of Hobbs and Shaw, and now this has to happen all these years later?
Didn't he already book a feud based on what happened during a movie, and that didn't really work out too well? I think I remember like in '89. I want to say Savage and Beefcake were involved in that.
Yeah, something. But hey, what's old is new again, right? And yeah, I don't know. There's a dozen ways you could get to where you want to go. In a way that would probably satisfy all parties, but the way they did it on Friday night was the absolute worst way you could have done it. Not only do you come out and have this guy Cody being completely neutered and saying, yeah, I won the Royal Rumble and I get to challenge, but fuck it. You can have it, The Rock. But The Rock then just comes out and stands there and they go off the air. So the guy that's known for talking doesn't even say anything. Oh, that's not exactly creating a moment now, is it?
Nope.
Yep.
What if it was something like Rock's in Cody's corner and he has his back to make sure the bloodline doesn't interfere? Something like that. And then from there you could build to Roman and Rock at SummerSlam.
Yeah. Right now, WrestleMania, as far as the attendance, I mean, that's pretty much locked in. So there's not going to sell an extra ticket if The Rock is on the card, in my estimation.
No.
Will it sell any Peacock subscriptions? Probably. It probably will. But then what? Like The Rock isn't going to be around. Even if he wins the title from Roman, which that would be the craziest thing they could do if they are just going along with this. But even if he did, it's not like he's just going to be on Monday night or Friday night every week. He's not going to do that. So again, we'll have another, you've traded one part-timer holding a belt hostage for another one.
A less timer.
Right. So I don't really, I don't see the further benefit of the business. I mean, they need Cody to make sure that every, if the fans are really behind Cody, they need Cody there to make sure that every building that they do go to week in and week out from then on will be as full as it can possibly be of people who want to see the American Nightmare WWE champion or not. And you can only pull the rug out so many times. After a while, people will give up on him. So yeah. I don't know. I don't like it.
No, sir, I don't like it.
Yeah, stinks and I don't like it. But that's fine, It's not I'm just one person. It's not, the entire wrestling business is dependent on what I think. And I'm not opposed to even The Rock coming in and involved. I personally have found The Rock more and more exhausting and corny over the years. Like the longer he stays around, it's like, a little goes a long way at this point. But that's just me. I'm sure all the box office dollars disagree with me. But yeah, I just don't think that you can mortgage your long-term plans for what may not amount to be much of a financial difference in the short term. So,
right, like WrestleMania sells itself, and I do agree with you in that. Like adding The Rock to it, giving him a match with Roman is not going to affect the bottom line of the event like if it does, it'll be minuscule to the point where it's not worth the damage that it would end up doing.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what they do. But I'm one thing I'm quite sure of is that whatever they thought they were doing on Friday on that SmackDown, I'm sure they thought that was going to be the fucking coolest. Not that, okay, here's our Machiavellian plan to get Cody more over. Like they're just that out of touch, you know, in general. The other thing one other thing before I forget that I wanted to say that you said when you're talking about the talent that's tweeting in support of Cody and stuff like that. You know, again, in a different WWE, that might have been the case where the office would direct or they would need approval. In today's WWE, I'm not so sure. It seems to be a little more talent friendly these days, and they feel comfortable about being able to show their support. There's nothing wrong with saying we want Cody. It's not necessarily, you know, it's not literally disrespecting or going against the company's decision because the company hasn't even made a clear decision. It's definitely all signs are pointing to it, but saying you want Cody is just saying you want Cody at this point. So I don't think anybody better not be in trouble for doing that if they were not in fact directed to do it. So that's the other thing I wanted to say. But were you about to say something?
I forgot.
Okay. Well, as far as you know, everybody in the chat before we get on to reviewing this episode of TNA, what do you guys want to talk about?
For this comment, I want to say Ric Flair's last match. I want to say it actually won the Gooker in either 2022 or 2023, whichever year it happened. I don't remember.
Is that some sort of award for the worst thing ever?
In a way, you can say that it's the basically the WrestleCrap annual award of like, okay, what was the worst that happened this year? And it's up to fan voting, and it was either 2022 or 2023, whichever year it happened, that Ric Flair, 2022, that was the Ric Flair's last match won it.
Well, I mean, if you saw it.
And dude legit blacked out twice in the middle of it.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And as far as the, you know, Cody versus Rollins, just black. We're done with that. He beat the man in a trilogy 3-0, and the last one was with one arm. Rollins is cooked. There's no point in having that match. Yeah. Yeah, he died. Ric Flair died. I will never die. Woo! They just poured a woo energy down his throat.
And gave him some woo wings.
Yeah. So legendary flavors. All right. Enough. So yeah. All right. Well, if you guys do think of anything else you want to talk about, we can do it at the end probably. But we'll start out talking about Total Nonstop Action from February 1st. All right, we're starting off with probably some sort of a recap, I think. And then we get Nick Nemeth versus Trey Miguel. So I guess he's really just working his way up from the bottom. Or just taking on the Rascals one at a time. Whichever. So I mean, these guys have a match. Goes pretty much like you'd expect. Wentz gets ejected by the referee for cheating. And then Dolph hits a super kick, and that's enough. Trey Miguel's out from a super kick. How many super kicks do you think that we've collectively seen Trey Miguel just shrug off completely in his matches over the years we've been covering this? But this one, though, this is a Nick Nemeth super kick. That's different.
Dude, this finish, I straight up bust out laughing like, wait a minute. We actually saw a 3 count off of one super kick.
Mm-hmm. He's putting the TNA locker room on notice. It's a Nick kick. Lab Rat says it's a Nick kick. He calls that the Nick kick. Does he? So yeah, he beats him with the super kick. He doesn't even deign to use the, what is that? Danger zone? Is that what it's called? The danger zone? The jumping violent chin lock? Okay. He's like, yeah, we don't need to do that, brother. So anyway, Burt Macklin attacks afterwards with the Rascals.
Does that make the super kick the highway to the danger zone?
Oh, he's got to use that. He's got to use that. I know they listen anyway. Guys, whoever's job it is to listen to this, use that. Don't ever say I never did anything nice for Nick Nemeth. And by me, I mean Brandon. So there you go. So yeah, so Burt Macklin attacks afterwards with the Rascals. They all beat the shit out of him and nobody helps. Nobody helps. No security, no referees. The referees come out after the beating is done. After the other 3 guys finish their beatdown and graciously exit the ring, the referees are right there to tell them to keep leaving the ring. So interesting. There you go. Yeah, so you know, what'd you think of this? What'd you think of this whole thing?
I think it's kind of a little bit interesting how it seems like they might be pairing Macklin with the Rascals, as we'll see later.
We will see later.
Again, it looks like they're just trying different things and not trying to do the same thing with everything. And it definitely feels like there's much more of an effort being put into the show than before. A lot more of an effort.
Well, a post-match beatdown with nobody coming out to help or enforce any rules or anything is very, very Impact Wrestling, though, I will say.
True.
Although, in fairness, that's whole wrestling business most of the time. Selective security. Yep. So, but yeah. I guess the effort was signing Nick Nemeth. That was the effort here on this one. Still signed.
Still, one super kick finishes the match. Wow.
Does he know where he works now? That didn't even work where he originally worked. Well, anyway, so Diener and Khan are doing a design promo with music underneath, which we haven't seen this for a while, but Khan interrupts the promo and says that the whole thing is bullshit. It's bullshit. The design is dead because he says it's dead. So apparently this guy took however long to decide he wasn't going to listen to Cody Diener anymore. And now he's making all the rules. It's Khan. I don't know what else to say about this. I guess, I mean, more to come, but
that's a major change I've noticed too with TNA is that they're actually following up on stuff later in the night rather than just waiting till next week.
Yeah. When he said, when he interrupted Diener, would it have been too much to have a record scratch on the music?
That would have actually made it work or made it better. I don't know why, but it would have. At least in my opinion, it would have.
I mean, like Rhino has the power to interrupt other people's alternate realities, so I don't see why a record scratch couldn't, you know. All right, so as you mentioned, Macklin and his new pothead soldiers run into Speedball Mike Bailey in the hallway.
Here's why he could be hanging out with them. Because being an ex-military vet and probably having PTSD, they probably know the good smoke to help him take care of that.
Yeah, this all makes sense. So anyway, they try to bully Mike Bailey in the hallway, and it doesn't really. I mean, nothing really happens. Mike Bailey does the thing where he just kind of smiles, and that's it, and they leave. So, any comment?
No, it kind of seems like they might be kind of building to like a 6-man match or like some sort of thing, and it. And I get we could see one side is clearly, Macklin and the Rascals, and it looks like it's probably going to be Bailey and Nemeth and a third person. Where's Gresham been? We haven't seen him in a while.
Well, judging by his physical condition, I assume he's in the hospital after a heart attack of some sort.
What the Furk to Furk?
Well, he's been sweating a lot, so I worry about his heart. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened to him. That was a joke, everybody. It was a joke. Don't go running the internet acting like you missed something. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think he's been hospitalized for any reason. All right, so now we get Decay versus the I guess they're locals, I don't know. Mila Moore and Savannah Thorne are who these ladies are. Don't worry, you'll never need to know those names again. This is pretty much just one of those matches where Decay gets over, and then they show MK Ultra watching the match in a little a picture-in-picture there, a 2-box, as somebody called it recently on AEW. So then Gia tries to get a word with MK Ultra, and then I guess this new tag team that I'll call Lunar Threat takes exception to last week, and they want a match. I forget who wants a match with who. I guess Jody Threat wants a match with Masha. Is that?
Yep.
Okay.
And this promo was so bad. Like, there was one line in there that as soon as Jody said it, I'm like, okay, you're done. Like, if this were me, I'm like, okay, cut. We're doing this over. It was when she said, "You're just jealous because you lost your titles while we shined so brightly in the Ultimate X." Jody, who's carrying the red X around? Because it sure ain't you.
Not only that, but just the way, that's a written line. Like, you could tell because people write things that people would never say. While we shine so brightly. Nobody's talking like that. And she has all the acting ability of a wrestler, so it's just not going to work. So a big g'day to Piers Austin. Thank you for joining us, sir. Former guest of the Impact Attack, former ring announcer of Impact Wrestling. The great Piers Austin is here. And so yeah, you're right. This sucked, and we'll just move on to another thing that kind of sucked. I mean, I see what they were trying to do, but to me, it fell flat. Let's see what Brandon thinks. So, Alan Angels is getting the sound check ready, and he's leaving all this in. So
and I liked this. I liked that they did that. It was different. They were trying to make it look as like low budget indie as possible, and I liked the effort. And they at least try to make attention to detail.
All right, so an A for effort, or maybe a B. So yeah, so they do this thing where it's basically like he's the whole thing from start to finish, from setting things up to, Josh Alexander not sure if they've started the show yet. And he's just interviewing him, but he's doing it in this way where he's like, he's trying to be friendly, but he's obviously saying things that he knows are going to insult him, or you would think he would know, but he's acting like he was surprised that Josh Alexander was insulted by the things that he was saying. So I don't know if this is the right way to play it. Like he's innocent, because he seems, after Josh leaves, he seems genuinely disappointed that Josh walked out on him. And he seems sad when he tells everybody to wrap up the show, which they also, they also leave in. So
it's possible he could have been hoping to get more of a confrontation out of Josh from those comments, rather than just him saying, you know what, you crossed the line, we're done. Good luck with your show. Have a great rest of your night. And it's kind of more like fuck, we didn't go further with that.
Yeah. It would have been good. What could have saved this a little bit more is if they had the markers on the screen, like when they show like the run time and the all that stuff around the borders and stuff.
Like it looks like a home video, like you see the time and the date on there and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, well, what do I know? Just do what you guys did. Do a polished and well filmed and choreographed version of something that's supposed to look like it's low budget and bad. Like again, get Michael Bay to shoot Ed Wood's script. Yes, do that. That's much better.
Again, at least they had an idea in mind. They put the effort in and they tried. Did the execution hit the mark? Not really, but it's at least they have somewhere to go. They experimented. They throw shit against the wall to see what would stick. Okay, this shit didn't stick. Back to the drawing board. See how we can readjust and make it better next week.
Yes. Better luck next time, I think, is what we're trying to say. But hey, at least it wasn't Danny Luna's promo or Jody Threat's promo.
Oh, that was so bad. That was so bad. Yeah. Oh, one thing that we saw during the sound check. Did you see what was back?
What was back?
The lights.
The lights. Well, here it's okay.
Right, and it was only here.
Yeah. Because he's trying to make it look like he has a set, So you would conceive that he would put a light there, right? Not just in a random hotel hallway where there's just one sitting there when there's no reason. Speaking of no reason, it's Brian Myers versus Kevin the Jet Knight. And Kevin Knight on his pants and on his Twitter handle has the phrase "to fly" on there, and he certainly did fly in this match. He was flying all over the place.
Is he a lost third member of Too Cool we didn't know about?
Yes, he was lost. Was he born? I don't know, but he was lost. So this was the thing. Myers did the thing. I can't really take anything away from him here. He does the thing where you're a heel and you let the guy take 95% of the match, and then you hit one thing and then he's done. So it's pretty much how it should have gone. You're basically just showcasing Kevin Knight until he loses, and that's fine. And then
great bump on that clothesline though for the finish.
Right. Yes. Of course, it's still a shitty finish for Brian Myers. The roster cut as a name doesn't even make sense anymore because people may not even remember, especially if you're just tuning in for new TNA, you have no idea what that's a reference to or anything like that.
Yeah, that gimmick that's been dead for a minute.
Yeah. But yeah, so they try to the system tries to take advantage of young Kevin, but Kushida comes in to back him up, his tag team partner in the Jet Setters or whatever they're called. And it ends with kind of a standoff, right? Nothing else happens.
Yeah, they do the system does the whole on our time gimmick.
That's not how the system works. That'll be a catchphrase going forward, as we'll see in a little bit. Any other thoughts on Myers versus Knight?
One of the few problems that Impact still has is that some of their matches go way too long, and like they'd go better if they were condensed and cut a lot of stuff out. Like you can accomplish what you need to accomplish in a lot less time, and it'll free up more time for other talent and to get more talent on the show that weren't on the show this week.
Yeah.
And I felt this is one of those examples of that.
All right. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure they taped all this, so they should be able to cut it however they want, right? Well, they chose to go here with Chris Sabin. With Gia, no music underneath. Hey, do you think Chris Sabin would be a good person to bring in for WrestleMania, right? As a celebrity, like
Have him
Goldberg, Goldberg 98. That's better than Goldberg 2024, right?
Shit, bring him in and have him squash Cody.
That's right. Oh man, can you imagine the reaction? Like, it's just like the Georgia Dome all over again. Maybe they should save it for. Maybe they should save it for Georgia, right? Just really put the boots to Cody. I think that would probably be good. But anyway,
no,
so Chris Sabin,
Goldberg versus Cody at the Georgia Dome. Goldberg's about to rear up. He pokes Cody on the chest. Cody falls over. Goldberg pins him 1, 2, 3.
Oh my God. I love it. So whoever listens to the Impact Attack, use those connections that got Jordan Grace in the Rumble, and let's make this happen. All right. So anyway, yeah, Sabin with Gia, no music underneath. And he starts talking about Ali, and then an Ali video plays on the monitor and interrupts. So we get to see his little political campaign video. He approves that message. And then the Good Hands walk in. And then they try to say something. And then that sort of turns into somehow Chris Sabin wanting a match against John Skyler next week, which nobody wants. Not even Chris Sabin. Nobody wants a match with John Skyler. But I guess that's what we're getting. So. But hey, they played the Ali video.
I like this thing that Ali is doing. I think he's kind of realizing that TNA is a place where he can have a lot more creative freedom, and I think that's kind of what he's being there for.
It's a low bar, but it's the best thing he's ever done. This current politician gimmick.
And then to go back to what Sabin was saying to the Good Hands, he mentioned something about being like the best X Division champion or nobody can beat him. To which I put up for a notes, Sabin, how many times do you have to lose that title to become a 10-time champion?
It's got to be the first thing out of every heel's mouth.
And then it had look like Skyler being like afraid of Sabin and not wanting the match, and it's like, you're getting a free X Division title match. Why would you not want that?
I don't know. They seem only comfortable to come out and talk about somebody's hometown. They don't really not so excited to wrestle or do anything else. Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of hoping that the new TNA rebrand would forget about these guys, but here they are. They wandered into a scene. All right. Well, this was a marquee moment on the show because it's time for Frankie Kazarian of the Delicious Tan to explain himself of why he did what he did. And Brandon, wouldn't you know? And chat, would you not know? It was just a barrel of cliches that you've heard 1,000 times from every wrestler who's ever turned on every other wrestler ever in history. You guys could start typing things that you've heard wrestlers who turned heel say in the chat, and Frankie said them all. He said them all, He didn't even put his own twist on it. He just said it.
It's like cliche bingo.
Yes. The one thing he didn't say was that he bet on himself, Lab Rat. Sorry.
The one I was waiting for that, and that the one that didn't come.
Yeah, we were both sitting there waiting for it. Probably, yeah, just like you bet on yourself, right? Right. That's what you open with, right? Yeah. So, unfortunately, I'm not gonna say that, Frankie was bad. This wasn't it.
Yeah, I liked the delivery and the actual performance. The material was just awful.
And the Jordans. The matching Jordans. Yeah, the material's awful. It just like it didn't explain anything. Everybody always says those same yeah, I don't need any of you. He said what else was he said I'm going to take my career into my own hands. Everybody, like I've tried to be a good soldier. Like, it's time to I've given everything to this business, and it's time to take. It's time to take now.
Depending on how your bingo card is set up, you might have a bingo by now.
Might have a bingo, yeah. I don't know what he's gonna take, because he still has to get booked. So, like, if you cut this promo where you say, I'm gonna take things now, then all Scott D'Amore has to say is, all right, well, you're off the shows. I'm not gonna book you. You're not taking anything. You'll take a vacation is what you'll take. That's exactly how I do. But that's the thing. Wrestling is so lame because no one addresses these things like what I'm saying. Like, instead of having a guy walk into somebody else's promo and get challenged to a match or whatever, after Frankie cuts this promo, the next thing we see him do is have this exact conversation with Scott D'Amore, where Scott D'Amore tries to put him in his place and says, you're not taking anything. This is my company. If I tell you to go home, you're going home. If I put you in a title match, you got a title match. There's nothing you can do about it. And then that gives Frankie an opportunity to be more of a heel and just antagonize Scott D'Amore for doing or not doing whatever he wants. And then but the conversation is there. Those are the things you should be doing when you've got these pre-tapes. You should be having those conversations of what would the next logical step be in this sort of a dynamic between the owner / booker / random wrestler who just decides he's going to take from the wrestling business. I mean, if Scott D'Amore comes out here and passionately screams about how much he loves wrestling all the time, you would think he would take exception to something like that. But, again, what do I know? Whoever's listening to this Impact Attack, write this down. Any other thoughts on Frankie and his explanation?
Nah, but the way you laid it out, like, would have went better. And the fact, and it could have led to something where eventually Kazarian becomes so much of a nuisance where D'Amore's like, if I got to get you in the ring and fight you myself, I'm going to. And then you could do something where Kazarian just beats the shit out of D'Amore, gets heat on him, and then you have Eric Young run in for the save and then set up that match.
No, see, that's what we don't do, because that's what TNA would do. Of course, you would beat up the owner of the company and then get put in a wrestling match with a wrestler. No. We can't do that anymore. That's my whole thing. Like, I'm tired of seeing people just the same old shit. So instead, it should be things like Scott puts him in a match and he doesn't like the match, so he just walks out and gets counted out or whatever. And then that's it. And then he gets in the back and Scott D'Amore's like, well, that was cute. Guess who's not getting paid tonight? And he's like, what do you mean? I get paid. I got to get paid at least whatever just for showing up. And he's like, well, you did this, and he can name off some things and say, so I have to fine you. And that's just going to cover your purse for tonight, right? These are the kind of things that are, that's more interesting. It can build from that. But beating up a, beating up a, beating up the booker and getting a wrestling match with Eric Young is not my idea of the right direction if we're trying to do different things that can be different than any other. This is your chance to do something different, because even WWE's not doing anything this different right now. They're just trying to lazily retread famous wrestlers from the past of WrestleMania main events. So this could be your chance to set yourself apart. What makes TNA different?
I like that. I actually do like that idea a lot better. Like when you compare that to what I came up with, like my idea is a lot more cliche and like overdone, whereas yours is like, okay, this is different. We haven't seen this before, and it's rooted in reality.
Rooted in reality, but still not real, and still wrestling related, business related, intrigue related, but it's personal relationship. Not everything has to be like, I beat you up so we have a fake wrestling match now. But if we're talking stories and characters are what we need in pro wrestling, that's how you do it. You have the stories be related to wrestling, and you have the characters be pro wrestlers, but also human beings. So this is a way you tell that story. That's just one way to do it. And we don't see it that often. So I like that. But don't worry, it's not a total loss, because as Frankie was going up the ramp, after he says, the only thing I liked from the whole thing was when he said, you have permission to hate me now. Like, I thought that was a good line to go out on. But when he's going back, you get to see Eric Young peeking through the curtain. He's watching. Look at him. Look at Eric Young. He hasn't forgotten what happened to him. So that's their way of like putting intrigue into this.
And from what we've seen on Eric Young on TV, that would kind of fit his character, where he's like, he would target Frankie at his own time.
Yes.
Like he would want to hit Frankie when it would hurt him the most.
Yeah. In the wallet with a fine. Yeah, man. So I know we've all been waiting for Moose here on the Moose, and the system runs into Alex Shelley in the lobby. I like Moose wearing his 3-piece suit with a belt. Like, I think that's funny. I would definitely do that if I were a wrestling champion. I would be dressed very nicely and wear my belt in public. But yes, they run into Shelley, and he tells them that he wants his rematch at, what is it? No Surrender.
No Surrender.
One of those. Yeah, I don't remember all these names, but yeah. So he wants his rematch, and he expects that the system is gonna fight him, because Moose says, I don't know if you noticed, but there's 4 of us and you're all by yourself. And he's like, I don't care. I'll fight you all right now. I'll fight Alicia right now. And then Moose is like, that's not how the system works. And then they just leave. So new t-shirt on shoptna.com. That's not how the system works. $29.95. That's all the Moose we get.
Sad panda.
Sad panda. But he looks spiffy in his suit with his belt. So, we get another Ash by Elegance. It's different than the other ones, but it's the same as the other ones. If you know what I mean.
It's time to kind of take this to the next level.
Mm-hmm. That's right. A wrestling match.
Or at least getting physical in some way.
Or appearing live in some capacity. Or maybe we could show the behind the scenes of them shooting these Ash by Elegance things, much like the sound check with Alan Angels. We'll just leave all the stuff in. Why not that? We could see her almost get hit by the boom mic. So yeah. All right. Then Diener goes out to the ring, and he admits that the design is dead, and he says it doesn't matter what it is. If something is dead, then you can't bring it back to life, and that's the cue for PCO and the entire team of Dr. Frankensteins to come out and revive him again. A match happens. Official match. This zombie has a match. And then he gets a quick PCO salt on Diener and wins. And then Khan comes out and he attacks PCO and he attacks Diener. And he smothers PCO to death with a claw. Then he makes his stupid K pose. But he does it backwards. On the camera, it looks like, it doesn't look like a K.
Well, I hope everybody had their bingo cards out for this one. I will say that it definitely does look like PCO is finally figuring out, hey, I should really tone it, what I'm doing down and not kill myself, because the most we've seen out of him so far the last couple of weeks is just a moonsault instead of the dives to the outside of the ring and bumping on the apron. And the other notes I have is, and we just watched a murder happen on camera. Make that 2.
Oh, he's not really dead. But they tried. That counts. Attempted murder is still a crime. Yeah, Labrat says first death of the year. That's right. We're only, 5 weeks in? Pretty good. We'll just say 4 weeks because that first week wasn't TNA.
Yeah, that was Impact. That was that old company.
Yeah. Yeah. Rocket Review says, remember when Cody Deaner was scary? No. Could a calendar of Ash sell out as quickly as the girls with Chase U calendar? No. Couldn't. But it's easy to sell out all your calendars when you probably only printed like 50 calendars. So, speaking of sellouts, AJ Francis brings a cameraman to just for his own personal appeal to Rich Swann. He brings a whole cameraman over. But I actually do like this because it's the reason why the camera's there, right? Normally you would just shoot this with him already talking, but he's saying, even though it's corny and his acting is bad and he's just remembering his lines, but he says like, come on, man, what do I pay you for? So there's some reason for this, I guess. Even if it's not an official company camera guy. But at least that would be like, what if he saw a TNA cameraman wandering around the hotel lobby, just like Alex Shelley or the System were earlier. And he said, hey man, I'll give you some money if you come with me and shoot something. Yeah, that's how that would happen. That's how we get to see it. He wants to be on camera giving Rich Swann another chance. So he's trying to convince Rich Swann. Rich Swann's not having it. He says, all right, fine. What about you, Rhino? As Rhino walks by, and Rhino's like, fuck off. So he's like, whatever. And then so
that's
Swann
why
says,
rhinos are going extinct.
Yeah, that's why rhinos are going extinct. Yes. Yeah. And then Swann just says, look, man, nobody in TNA is messing with you right now. So he's not going to. AJ says, money do. Money do. Money messes with him, I guess. That's what he's trying to say. Like money is just like, hey, AJ Francis, you want some of me? And he's like, yeah. My previous ring name was based on you, Money. Let's be friends. Let's be friends, legal tender. Let's you and me be a tag team. Forget Rich Swann. I'll team up with the entire concept of money.
And you can take care of all of my payments. Legal or in private. Yeah, no, tender and private. Damn it, I fucked that up. Fuck.
Oh, yeah. This is just like an episode of the sound check. So yeah. All right. So what'd you think of this?
I liked it. I mean, the setup was, like you said, the way it was set up was good when it was, he paid the cameraman to be there. And it shows that nobody gives a shit about this guy. So where I see this go is he finally finds somebody on the roster that he can pay off to be his friend and basically be his partner.
Right. It would have been DJ Who Kid, but he was thrown away. So. Yeah, I mean, the concept of it was fine. Other than AJ Francis, this terrible reading of the memorized lines, but yes,
he definitely comes across as somebody like, okay, here are the, here's what we want to get over. Maybe hit this line or two, and then yourself, go.
Yeah, although maybe this is himself. Like maybe this is his best. I just don't think it's very good. He comes across as disingenuous somehow. I really don't know any other way to put it. And when I say it's bad, like I'm a guy that is like, hey everybody, just leave the Rock's daughter alone. All right, she's all right. So if that gives you any indication. All right. Well, our main event. It gave us a nice main event. It is match 1 in a best of 3 or a first to 2 or however you want to count it, a series between the GYV and the ABC. And so it's winner take all for the titles. I was wondering, when you got a 2 out of 3 situation, what if you just win by DQ twice? Do you get the belts? That should be like a loophole.
I think that was actually addressed. That was actually part of an angle with a 2 out of 3 series. I want to say Demolition was involved in it. I forgot who it was that they did it with, but one of the matches ended in a DQ, so the titles ended up not changing hands, even though the team ended up going over 2 out of 3 falls, because one was a DQ, they didn't get the belts.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, anyway, that's not an issue here in this match yet. Because Grizzly Young Vets.
Been?
Oh, I don't know. Grizzly Young Vets hit the grit your teeth to go up 1-0 in the series. So there you go. Heels are up. Can the baby faces pull off 2 straight? I don't know. Pretty exciting. Your thoughts, please.
I thought it was a decent match. I liked it for like the first 10 minutes of it. Then it kind of felt like it fell into, oh shit, we got to fill time. Let's just get our indie shit in, no sell, pop up, take turns hitting shit, and then go home. Whereas I thought like the first 10 minutes flowed nicely. It built nicely. If they would have went home off the hot tag, that would have made it a much better match. But that's kind of a problem with TNA matches. Is like it'll get to like 8-10 minutes of like decent, logical, coherent wrestling, and then it just turns into shit. We got to fill this time, so let's just hit moves.
So what I'm hearing is the first 10 minutes was all grizzled, and then the last part of the match was all Bullet Club. Basically what I'm hearing.
You can put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I sort of felt the same way. Kind of checked out a little bit. Perhaps I was distracted by something else. I don't know. The only thing I really noticed on the match, if I want to give like a criticism or constructive criticism, is there was a point in the match where like they were getting heat on Chris Bay, and James Drake taunted Ace Austin and Ace Austin got in the ring, and Chris Bay was like almost in his own corner, and James Drake is just sitting there like taunting at Ace, who's already in the ring, and the referee's putting him out, and nobody did anything. Like, they just let him sit there. They let Chris Bay sit there selling. Gibson stayed on the apron. But if Gibson had come in, he would have had to walk all the way across the ring and stand right next to the ref, so he couldn't do it. James Drake didn't get any extra heat by like choking him or poking him in the eyes or doing anything that he should do while the referee's distracted. So it was just a waste of drawing in the partner. If you're going to do a spot where you draw in the partner, it's better to do it when the babyface is in the heel corner, because then it's the shortest distance for the heel to have to cheat. You can taunt the partner. He comes in, the referee tries to put him out. Then you could both kick the shit out of him in the corner. You could have the legal man continue to taunt while the other guy just chokes him or does any sort of dastardly act that you can do while the referee's not looking because he's trying to put the partner out. And because of the dastardly act, the partner is more aggressively trying to get in the ring to put a stop to it. So the referee has to work harder to put him out and can pay even less attention to what's going on. Like, the whole point of the spot is you're supposed to get people more invested that Ace Austin will come in and kick the shit out of both of these guys. You know, because they've been watching a 2-on-1 situation for however long. That's the whole psychology of the hot tag. I want retribution on these dirt bags who aren't fighting fair. And the only person that can get the retribution is this guy who's been waiting and fired up. If you don't get the people fired up to see the guy come in and kick their ass, you're just not doing your job. So if you're going to taunt and draw the opponent in, you cannot just sit there and do nothing. And these guys should know way better than that. I know Zach Gibson knows better than that. I know for a fact he knows better than that. But like I said, because of the positioning that he had him in, there's no way he could have come in and done anything. There's no way. So you have to set that up better if you're going to do that spot. You don't have to do that spot, but if you're going to do that spot, do that spot.
I think like the whole where that went wrong is, I think this goes back to like a lot of guys, especially the young guys, just aren't trained and experienced enough to be able to work on the fly and know what to do in those situations, so they're not standing there with their dick in their hand looking stupid. They plan everything out in the back, and if things go off script, it's just like short circuit. What do we do?
Yeah. Well, because that's all, they're only practicing their moves. Like, I don't know what wrestlers learn in schools other than moves now. Like, I don't know if anybody's teaching them anything other than bumps and moves. I don't know if anybody has the authority or knowledge to explain to them the way it was explained to me. Like, I didn't invent this. Like, I was taught it.
Go ahead. I'll never forget. There was a time in training where I whipped a guy into where we're doing like a practice tag match in training. I whipped the guy into his own corner, and I got chewed out and be like, why the fuck did you do that? And if this were a real match, what you would never send your opponent to his own corner. Never happened again.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's one thing if you learn from your mistakes. It's another thing if you just don't teach anybody what the point of what you're doing is. Like, there's two elements to a tag team match that should be like universally used in pretty much every tag team match. And one of them is if it's a standard match and it's not like a gimmick match, like two heel teams, even though you could do it in two heel teams or two babyface teams. If it's two heel teams, you both have to cheat. You have to out cheat each other. But anyway, if it's just a standard baby heel match, heel should cheat at some point. They should cheat to get the heat. And before it's time for the hot tag, they can't let the guy that they've been beating the fuck out of for however long make a comeback on them before he tags. Don't bump for the guy you've been beating up. Just find a way for him to escape and make the tag without taking a bump. I wouldn't even allow him to kick me off if I grab him by the leg. I'm just like, it's got to be like a slip over, scoop slam, slip over, jump, make the tag, go through the legs, make the tag, shoot him off. He ducks, makes a flying tag, whatever. Like anything except I take a bump for you after I've been beating you up with my partner. Like if you can do those two things, preserve the hot tag and get some heat during the heat by cheating, you've got a recipe for a C+ tag match at worst. If you can execute those two things. And like I said, I know these guys fucking know better. So I would like them to, and when you're the babyface in these situations, right? You have to, if the heels are less experienced than you as a babyface, you have to lead them in your own way. Like if you're a babyface selling, you sell where you need the heel to go. So like if you're, let's say, okay, in this instance, God, people are getting such an education. Everybody's like, what? I don't care. I'm watching Raw. So let's say we got this situation here where Chris Bay's taking the heat. Okay. Now let's say, they give me a bump. Okay. So James Drake bumps me and I'm selling, but now I'm a little too close to my corner. Right. So he wants to do the spot where he draws the guy in. If I'm Chris Bay, I can sell the wrong way. Like I can be disoriented from the bump I just took and I could go crawl to the opposite direction like I don't know where I am. And then by the time Ace, go ahead.
Like you look up, catch stuff. Oh shit.
Yeah. So you crawl to the wrong corner and then by the time Ace gets in, Zach Gibson has his hands on you and he's beating you up in the corner, choking you, whatever, because you ended up there. Like if Drake's not going to put you where you need to go, you can put yourself and then Drake will get it. Like that's the thing. Or even in a singles match, if you need a spot, if a heel forgets the spot that's coming up next, like let's say he's supposed to shoot you from buckle to buckle and then he doesn't remember. If you crawl to one of the buckles, he'll be like, oh yeah, buckle. If you just sell the correct way, you can lead that match even as a babyface. I know babyfaces, the heels don't really lead matches anymore. I know that's like a bygone era thing. But all I'm saying is like whoever's leading the match, if the babyface is more experienced and you need to place the heel, you can do it by selling. You sell where you need him to go. You go to the ropes, you go to the buckle, you roll to the outside. He'll figure it out if he's worth a damn.
Yep. And then when he gets close to you, you can talk to him, say, all right, hey, take me here, work me to your corner.
Yeah. So, tag team wrestling's kind of dead. There's nobody really doing it right these days. Grizzly Young Veterans are one of the ones that were doing it more right. So I was just a little extra disappointed to see them miss this opportunity in this match. But oh well. So like I said, they go up and that's all I saw. But was there a secret Ali video at the end of this show or no?
Not this week.
Okay. Well, then that was Impact.
Yeah, we didn't get the 90s alternative rock album ending this week.
Damn. All right. TNA Impact, another one in the books. So like you said, you could see where there's some effort being made and some different things being done. And like I said, I can see where some of the stuff is just the same old stuff. So I guess it's okay to have a little bit of the same old stuff as long as we're looking towards constantly improving and evolving and moving forward in the correct and interesting ways. Obviously, I offered up an alternative for how you could handle the Frankie Kazarian situation. I don't think they're going to go with anything like that. And they don't have to go with anything like that. But it would just be nice to see them thinking about different ways to do things with their characters that they have. And I don't mean like more Killer Kowalski references. So, yeah.
Kowalski guys, man. Based on that, how long do you see before Kazarian joins the system?
Might as well join the system. Might as well. I mean, they're just taking it. But that's the thing. What are you there to do if you're not? That's another thing about his promo, right? What does it mean to say I'm taking everything from the business now? Well, obviously you want to be the TNA champion. So if you don't get in Moose's face immediately and declare that you want that belt, what the fuck are you even talking about? And how much you want to bet he's not going to do that? He's just going to have some match against fucking probably Kevin Knight. I'm taking from this business. I'm taking a match with Kevin Knight. I see everybody else beating him. I can do it too.
Exactly. Like with that logic, he should be up in Moose's face, doing everything he can to try to get a shot at that belt. And if you want to keep the Eric Young storyline going, and that's you, then you have Eric Young do everything he can to fuck over Kazarian in his attempts.
Yeah. But they're not going to do that because they're two heels. Meh. He's a heel. Son of a bitch. You know what's funnier than Jim Cornette doing a promo? Like cutting a promo on somebody? When he catches himself saying something that people that do an impression of him say and says it himself. Have you know what I'm talking about? Like the other day he was like, he was going off on some tangent and he was like, oh, goddamn. And then he switched into the JR. He was like, goddamn. Like he did the impression of him. Like he caught himself and did an impression of himself. It was hilarious.
Man, if only that dude could like be able to laugh at himself and with everything else.
I mean, he seems like a relatively happy individual these days. I think he only gets mad when it's good for business.
His business, anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's the only business there is for him. He's either burned every bridge or doesn't want to cross a bridge. So, which is funny because it's like, it's funny. I said this before, but it's too bad that he and Russo didn't meet when they were older and not working together, because they're more alike now than, they ever could have been when they were both younger and trying to work, It's like they both don't like wrestling today. They both have dogs that they love very much. They both like the same kinds of music. There's a bunch of other reasons of why they're very similar, but once you've worked in the trenches with somebody, you just can't stand them. Like I guess there's no going back from it.
Did you ever hear the story about how Jim Cornette has a kid's pinball machine and how that didn't break the ice between them?
It didn't break the ice?
Nope.
No, I didn't. I don't think I heard that story.
Or no, I think it was Russo talked about how Jim Cornette. No, he had mentioned in one of his books how Cornette had a kid's pinball machine. And he's like, and he wouldn't let me play it.
Oh.
But he was obviously talking about that in jest.
Right. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, man, if they met for the first time in 2024, they'd probably hit it off.
Oh, yeah.
But, it's not to be. And of all the people that I heard, who discussed the the Vince McMahon situation that I was disappointed by. Those two guys were not one of them. So, oh well. Well, anything else before we get out of here, chat? Got a couple minutes in case you want to talk about something.
We also got a Punching Up Impact too.
We still got a Punching Up Impact. But while we're doing that, we'll give them a chance to think about what we want to say. All right. So this Punching Up Impact is up and posted on that Substack. Where's that Substack again?
HMG Brandon.
Right. So that was posted up earlier today. You could have had a spoiler for how this was going to go if you wanted. But let's get into it right now live.
Alrighty, so we open the show with our recap and catch-up packet. Go to intro and pyro and ballyhoo before we cut to the announce table and they run down the card for the night, discuss the events that happened last week, and then we go to an in-ring with the system that opens with Kushida music and entrance like he is coming out for a match. The system attack him from behind and leave him laying on the ramp before they get in the ring. The system cut a promo on how they're going to integrate TNA into the system, but the original system needs to be dismantled first, and Time Machine are their first targets. Sabin and Shelley run down the ramp with weapons, and they give one to Kushida while the system bails from the ring. Santino music and entrance. Santino makes the main event a match between Shelley and Edwards with the system banned from ringside. If Shelley wins, he gets a title shot at No Surrender. We go to our first commercial break and then come back with a vignette from the design, which is the same one that we saw on the show. Then we go to match number 1, Nick Nemeth versus Trey Miguel with Zachary Wentz. Nick Nemeth music and entrance, Trey Miguel music and entrance along with Wentz. And we get a condensed version of the match we saw on the show that, of course, still ends the same way with Macklin running down to attack Nemeth and him and the Rascals leave together. And then we go backstage to the system's locker room where Moose tells Myers and Edwards that everything is taken care of for the main event before we go to our second commercial break. We come backstage with Macklin and the Rascals, and we see the same pre-tape with them running into Bailey in that whole encounter. Match number 2, Knockouts Tag Team title match with Decay defending against the Enhancement talent. Decay music and entrance with the Enhancement talent already in the ring with Decay up strong. Then we go backstage with Gia and MK Ultra. We get the same promo and interruption with Jody Threat and Danny Luna, except that we get rid of that awful line that we talked about during the review.
We get rid of the whole thing.
And then we set up that match for next week instead of tonight. And then we go to our episode of Sound Check with Angels and Alexander that goes just like it did on the show. Then we cut to a backstage segment with the system locker room. Moose and Edwards hype up Myers as he leaves the locker room. Edwards asks Moose if the deal is really done, and Moose says we will find out later before we go to our third commercial break. Then we come back, match number 3, Brian Myers versus Kevin Knight. Myers music and entrance, Knight music and entrance. And then we find out Kushida's laid out again, this time backstage. Man, that guy just can't catch a break tonight.
Or catch several breaks.
And then we have Myers up clean. Then we go to the Ash by Elegance vignette, same one that we saw on the show. And then backstage with Gia and Sabin. Gia asks Sabin about the system and the Ali video. Sabin gives his thoughts on everything going on around him before the Ali video plays on the screen. And then one thing that's different from this promo, no good hands.
I like it.
They ain't on the show. We're cutting them out.
Goodbye, good hands.
And then we just have Sabin just kind of like getting stressed out because now he's got to deal with the system, and now he's got Ali. Dude's got a lot on his plate right now.
Well, he can handle it. He's going to sell out the Georgia Dome.
Then you go to the in-ring with Frankie Kazarian. It's the same promo on the show, except we get a little bit more creative and stop going to cliche city. And of course, we also have EY peeking through the curtain. Then you go to our fourth commercial break. Come back with the Jordan Grace Royal Rumble package, the same one that we saw on the show. And then match number 4 is ABC versus Grizzled Young Vets. Grizzled Young Vets music and entrance, ABC music and entrance, and we get a condensed version of the match that we saw on the show with the same finish. Then you go to the pre-tape with AJ Francis and Rich Swann, same one that we saw on the show. Match number 5, Diener versus PCO. Diener music and entrance. Diener cuts the same promo that we saw on the show. PCO music and entrance. PCO over clean. Khan lays him out, except this time we don't have him simulate actual murder on both of them.
Yeah, and he does his pose the correct way.
That too. And then backstage with the System locker room, Moose and Myers are now hopping up Eddie, and Moose promises that Eddie won't be alone. We go to our 5th and final commercial break, and then come back with a pre-tape of Shaw and Company backstage. Gail Kim approaches them and asks Shaw why Jay and Evans are still around after their talk the prior week or the week before that. And then Shaw says that Shaw doesn't need them, but having them is an insurance policy. And then Jay and Evans attack Gail. The idea behind this is going to set up a Shaw versus Gail match. New Japan hype video. Then we cut to the announce table where they hype up, run down the card for next week's show. And then our main event, Eddie Edwards versus Alex Shelley. Eddie Edwards music and entrance. Alex Shelley music and entrance. Here is the finish. Ref bump. Shelley hits Shell Shock. Man in a mask hits the ring and lays out Shelley with a chair. Eddie and the ref comes to, and Eddie hits the Boston Knee Party for the win. And then the rest of the system comes out, and they stand tall going off the air.
Man in a mask. I think we know who that is, right?
I'm pretty sure we know who it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the idea where I was going to go, obviously I can't really continue the storyline because I'm basing it off of what Impact does that week, but where I would end up going with it is Kushida stabs Motor City Machine Guns in the back and joins the system as their X Division representative, takes the belt from Saban.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kevin Knight tries to get in the Motor City Machine Guns good graces. And at some point he does and takes Kushida's place.
Yeah. It should be a natural thing, but I mean, he should already kind of be in the affiliate in the crew if he was a tag team with him. Yeah, you did mention that was the plan last week. Also, the Jordan Grace thing I didn't have on my thing because I guess that's what they cut out this week on whatever version I watched. Although luckily I had seen the video because it popped up in my YouTube. So, I saw the whole, deal with her hugging her mom and all that stuff. But it was left off of my version that I watched this week. So that's 2.
It was really weird seeing them air like WWE footage on TNA.
Yep.
But that's where we are in 2024, and the fact that Vince is gone and different management's looking at things like, hey, how can we improve the product, regardless of if it means working with other companies.
Yep. And let's be honest, the only reason it wouldn't happen when Vince was there is because someone would snitch and tell Vince that they were doing it. It's not like he knows what's going on in the world outside of, he wouldn't know that. So he needs somebody to tell him.
Flywheel, pal.
Yep. So yeah. So there you go. There's your alternate universe version of this week's Impact. Was it better? Was it the same? Was it worse? You be the judge. Yeah, some interesting Interesting stuff there. I love the part about leaving out the good hands. That's really awesome. Well,
Yeah, they're the only reason why I keep them around is just to basically have them be the jobber tag team. Like actually have them live up to their name.
yeah, well, forget that. Let's just bring in the locals like they did for, Decay. How about that?
That's actually an even better idea. Give them some airtime and help them out on the indies.
Yeah. So, not that I advocate anybody losing their jobs. This is all for the purposes of entertainment. So whoever's listening, don't point at the good hands and laugh at them and tell them that somebody thinks that they should not have jobs.
That's not what we're saying at all.
We are, but we aren't. We're saying it, but we're not admitting that we mean it. We're covering our asses.
We're saying what Stevie Ray's has said before that I 100% agree with. You got to get in where you fit in.
Yeah. And also what he says that I agree with. Suck a fruit booty.
One of my favorite lines from him was like when he told Lex Luger on an episode of Thunder, is like, yes, between you and me and 5,000 people that are watching. And then Tony Schiavone's like, he means 5,000 people in every home.
Yes, every home. So, that means Thunder is a very popular show south of the border. All right. So I think that that should just about wrap us up here tonight. On that note, and I think it's time where we tell the people where they can find us outside of the Impact Attack.
As always, you can catch me on Twitter, or as the kids call it these days, the X at Transarchistia. I'm also on Substack at HMG Brandon, and once I finally get a new computer, I have no idea when that's going to be, but I will be getting those streams back on Twitch at twitch.tv/Miss Tia the Transarchist, although I will be going through a whole rebranding situation with that. So once like those pieces get in place, I'll start making those proper announcements. But until then, we just chilling.
You're gonna rebrand as Miss TNA the Transarchist.
No, it's gonna be something different.
Okay.
Well, just saying, like, hey, if you want to follow now, so you're ready for when it happens, that's what it is right now.
Okay. All right. Look, the joke was there. I had to. It only works now. It's not going to work later. Yeah, Brandon gets rebranded. There's too many. Yeah, so many things. Yeah, so you can find me at Opinion Haver on all the social media platforms because that's my brand and it ain't changing. And don't accept any substitutes. There's people out there that try to use the name. They either don't use it right or they're just not me. But don't be fooled. Accept no substitutes. I'm the one and only Opinion Haver. All one word, Opinion Haver. And that's on all your favorite social media platforms or any platforms, including Twitch. And then you've got, what else do? We do here at HMG, we do the Next Level Wrestling Review with Big Ray Hernandez every Wednesday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. We'll be talking about Vengeance Day this week, and we may have a special cameo. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that episode. Then every Sunday morning, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, Jimmy T and sometimes Chris is on his own show. We do the Wreckage where we review AEW Collision, and that's a fun listen. Again, much like this show, which I tell people on the other two shows, don't be put off just because you don't watch AEW, or don't be put off just because you don't watch NXT, or don't be put off just because you don't watch Impact. You want to be on this show. This is the show you want to see. You don't need to watch the shows we're talking about. You need to watch this show because we're going to tell you what happened on the show anyway, and we're going to do it better and more entertaining than they do because we must be more professional than the professionals. That is my motto, and I would hope that everyone shares the same. But yes, there we go. So those are the shows that I'm most responsible for. And of course, last week I did a Monday Locker Room with RBV. So if you missed that one, check it out. Check out a fresh one with RBV and Ben Hameen from today. And check out, as long as we're talking about other, shows that I'm not on, let's talk about Wrestling with Rip Rogers. They just had a nice interview with Kevin Thorne in studio. Kevin Thorne was there and had a video run-in from Shelly Martinez. So a reuniting of Kevin Thorne and Ariel from WWECW. And that was a good listen. So you're going to want to check that out. Then you're going to want to watch Stevie Richards. Now, Stevie Richards has got more channels than I do shows, but I'm sure that if you follow one of them, you'll get more than enough content, let alone if you were to follow all of them. So a wrestling analysis channel, his fitness channel, his podcast, yada, yada, yada. His wife has a channel, Florida Adventures. There's just so much going on over there with Stevie Richards. So today he was looking at, was it Terry Funk's facial expressions was a short video that he put up. So there's lots of stuff over there to check out with Stevie. And I believe that pretty much wraps it up for all of the plugs. So hope to see you next week. And for Brandon, I'm the vet, and I don't have a sign-off line.